Today we're making a quick set of sawhorses using a couple of metal brackets. I made a few of these before. My buddy was asking me about how to make a good sturdy pair of them. Sharp my pencil quick. Something we could leave around the shop when we do, say, painting or staining or something like that. We have a bunch of boards we want to lay out across. Especially if they get heavy, you definitely want them to be sturdy. So, since they gave us these little brackets, I'll show them to you in a second. We usually use these to make a good set of sawhorses. And you don't have to go as in-depth as we do on them, because we're actually going to add bracing around the bottom, because we're going to leave them outside. They're going to be used a lot. They're going to need to be real sturdy. But these brackets here are basically just two clamps. Two clamps, put 2x4s in, clamp them down to the edge of the 2x4, and then you screw them in. And if you don't put any bracing across the bottom of them, so you take them apart, basically all you do is undo the screws, and you can move them around easily or store them in a corner, without taking up a whole lot of space. So you can run with that either way you want to. See how they move there? They clamp onto the 2x4, and each leg comes out this way. Put 2x4 across. Now, like I said, since I want to make these more custom and bigger, you see the normal size of the plastic little sawhorses you get from the store is about 21 inches across. Now we're going to make ours 5 foot long, so about 3 times the size of a regular little set of sawhorses, and they're going to be sturdy. So we're going to get to it by opening this stuff up, get it ready to go. I'm going to take a few measurements and write them down. Keep a piece of this cardboard so I can reference it. You gotta take a break and give your doggy love. Boy. Pull this one out. So now the normal standard height we're gonna check of sawhorses is about 32 inches to the top. I'm gonna make my legs 32 inches because I want mine to be a little bit taller. So each one of these legs up here is going to be at the top of this, and then my piece of wood is going to be a little bit higher. Just how I like them. I think these are too low, but just my preference. You can do it any size you want. You can make them a foot tall if you want. Lay down on them, make a bed out of it. So, 32 inches. So I got to make 8 legs at 32 inches each leg. 2 tops at 60 inches, which is 5 feet. Those are the first ones I have to make. Now, to make my cross braces, I got an extra junk piece of pressure treated, and that's what we are. We're making it all out of pressure treated wood because they're going to be outside. The screws we're going to use to fasten them together are these coated exterior screws. They got a 3-inch and we got an 1 5/8. Pretty sturdy, and they're good for long lasting outside. They're made to put like decks together and things like that, or at least like Trex stacking. Put that, fasten it down to the pressure treated, so it's good for pressure treated wood. All right. So this piece of wood is supposed to be a 10-footer, but they always cut them a little bit long, like they did here. This is about 120 and 5/8, just under. My blade width is just under 1/8 of an inch. So I'm gonna make this 16 1/4 to split it directly in half. And if I run that line, it should pretty much be perfect. Now whenever I cut, I let my drop fall to the ground so the saw doesn't bind up. If you try to cut it on here, or you have this end a little higher, and you try to cut that, it's going to bind onto your saw and it's going to screw you all up. Could do a lot of damage if it goes really wrong. So just let your piece fall off and don't let it bind. 2 5-foot pieces. Now I'm going to come in, I don't want them too close because it'll be top heavy and sturdy. I don't want them too far up because it'll be too bulky. So I figure I'm going to come in about 10 inches off each end. That'll be the outside edge of the brace that we're putting on. And wherever the spot's going to be where you make your line, to wherever the piece that you're going to install or connect, that's usually where I put my X. So like I said, if I put the edge of that to the outside, to the inside of it is going to be where my X is. That way I always know which side of my line I'm fastening whatever I'm fastening something to. So these look like this here. You see the X? This is where my bracket's going. It's going to go right on there. Now they have little teeth on them, so you can squeeze them, dig them into the piece of wood, and they should stay in place for the most part unless you really jar it around. A lot of times if I'm doing small jobs, there's only 1 or 2 fasteners types, like 3 inch, 1 inch, and 5/8. I'll just use my pocket. I'm gonna go get my tool belt out for it. Here's one. Get it on your line, close it up, make sure it looks square, screw it. Next on our list is our legs. So I need 8 of them at 32. Not real particular because they're just sawhorses, but the way I normally do these is I'll flush 2 up at a time, put them on top of all the rest. And I cut my 32 from each side. You got to move them, try to squeeze them from the middle, pick them up and set them down gently, that way they won't slide around. You have to retap them together and all that good stuff. Now you can cut them like this because they're not falling off of anywhere. So what you're essentially doing is you got your 2 legs and your middle piece. Now what I like to do is I do that because it makes me a mark on the next one of where it has to be. So I'm already fine and lined up. Now the piece that came out of the middle, I use it as my fulcrum point. Put that on there, gives me an upward angle so I can cut this piece, it'll drop without binding my saw. And just use that line that's already there from the cut. You already pre-marked it. Another leg. Slide this one, let your junk piece drop. One horse is done. Now depending on how long you make your legs, you'll be able to see what's left in the middle. I can make 2 more out of this one because I got 32 and a half and 32 and a quarter. I'll make 2 more out of these. 32. 32. Now after this, I only need to cut 1 more 2x4 up for legs. Use this side so I can cut and not bind. legs are done. All the same size. Now we're going to put them inside the holes for the legs in the bracket. And you can see here, when you put the 2x4 in, into here, it has these screw holes on the sides. That's where you fasten them. We're going to use the 1 5/8 for that again too. Now you bang it down until it taps inside, fits inside there, and hits the other piece. Sometimes the sides flare out. I like just to tap them back in, because like I said, the wood is usually wider than the metal, and you gotta force it in there and press the pieces back down over the edges. Get 2 on each side. So now in order for these legs to get in there a little more smoothly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hammer and I'm going to tap each one of these flared out a little bit so it opens it up so I can slide the 2x4 in there a lot easier. I was having to bang the crap out of the other one to get it in, because these are probably right at 3.5 inches, and I'm going to say the wet pressure treat is probably at 3 5/8 or better. So it's a little bit of a tough time getting in there, but you take it, put it on your table, tap the edges out a little bit, just so it flares them. Make sure you got a decent flare on. You can always tap them back in after you get the 2x4 in. Sometimes you have to spread them back open a little more again if you didn't get a good enough spread on them when you first got to opening them up on the table. My good Lord. Yep. Not a fan. Somebody could have put a little common sense into that. But anyway, the legs are on. They're not very sturdy as they come with these. I might have to tighten this up a little bit so the teeth bite tighter. They get jarred around a little bit. That's why I don't like using them the way they are, just like this, because they're not real sturdy, not square. You always have to kick them and keep them square, things like that. Oh yeah, so that's what they look like, because they're not the right size to fit a normal 2x4 next pressure treat. They're both sets now. It's all wobbly. I'm going to show you how to take the wobble out of it and make it much more sturdy. Like I said, you can use them like this if you're using only light things, but I basically want to build them so I never have to worry about them collapsing or not being sturdy enough to put whatever type of material I want to on top of it. I could probably store 2x12s on top of it if I wanted to, and they wouldn't go anywhere. So what you do now, get it to this point. I like to measure from the outside to the outside for a brace piece I'm going to put across on both sides here, and then I'm going to cap the ends off on both sides there. So right now, you know this is going to be true, this isn't going to move. You can even go up here if you wanted to. So 39.5. So I'm going to cut, this is the same, should be. I'm going to cut 4 at 39.5. And then after that, I'm going to put a piece on each side, cap it, mark the back side of the piece. They'll be angled. I'll cut the angle and then fasten them on. So I'm basically going to make a box all the way around the bottom, which I can put a piece of plywood on top of it and make a shelf similar to these, or I can just leave it open, being that it's going to be outside in the weather. I don't really want it collecting too much rain, water sitting on a shelf here. So we're going to get these measured up, marked and cut. I think if you come across and say, hey, I want to do it so far up, so I'm going to do mine, that's a good number. You can do whatever you want, you're building them yourself for whatever you need. So let's say 12 inches to the top. So every single one of these I'm going to pull off the bottom so they're all the same. I'm going to go 12 inches to the top, which means this is the top mark, my X is going to be below that. Square them up. That way I know when I put my piece on, they're all going to have to be at the same exact spot. So I'm going to cut these, mark them all, get them on there, then I'll show you the end pieces when that's done. So I got my braces cut. I like to try to square these up, the legs to the top. Too bad. Now I spread them apart, put a little weight on them, because as they close down, that means this closes tighter. And then I'm going to put my bottom braces on, flush with the outsides. And now we're going to use the 3-inch screws. And don't sink them too far because they'll start coming out the back side. and probably won't really hurt you or anything like that unless you put your hand down inside between this area where they might come out, but rather safe than sorry. Got our marks. I'm going to put one screw in first so it has something to pivot on. Kind of rest it on my leg. Pretty close to flush the way it is. Nice. It's easier for you than holding it. You always start your screw before you put it into place and then sink it. Buried. Alright. By doing that too, if there's any twists in your legs or anything like that, when you bury the 3-inch, it'll end up straightening the leg out. I usually do four in each one of these. You could probably do two and be fine, but I overkill everything. Knock it off. Hey. Nobody wants to hear you licking. Ah. But Dad, I enjoy it. I don't care about everybody else, do you? Big boy. Alright. One side on. Now that you have those on there, find a piece of wood that'll fit on. I think this one will. Did we just get lucky? Did we just become best friends? Yep. Alright, so this one will actually work. It's the remainder from the centers of these that I cut out. So I guess if you go 12 inches, oh, just under. See, that'll bother me. I know it's hardly anything. It's maybe a 1/4 inch or less, 3/16 on each side, but that'll drive me out of my mind. Every time I look down there, I'll think about it. I'll think, stop being lazy, a-hole. So here's another piece. I'll take it out of this one. Hold it up into place. Flush the top and bottom. Mark the back side. Then you cut those 2 angles. You take this piece, put it right over there. I usually put 1 screw in here and 2 screws in here. 1 and 2. Junk wood. I don't want to put too many in this end because it's an end, and if you put them too close, or you don't catch them just right, sometimes you'll end up splitting it, and that'll make it weak on you, and you'll have split wood and it looks like crap. Beautiful. Alright. So now I start the screw first. Like I said, I'm going to just throw one in here and one in here. I'll start them. And that's it. One on there, two in here. And that's that. Now already infinitely stronger. So that's how it's supposed to start. One more piece on the end, and then you'll have I went 5 foot on the top of this, but it'll be sturdy, strong, and it'll give me a lot of room from end to end to be able to put a lot of different stuff all over the top. Well, here they are. They're all done. Solid. Ready to work on. Do whatever you want to them. They're strong as heck. I wouldn't recommend doing this, getting on them, because I always say don't use your sawhorses as staging or anything like that. But at least you know that they're strong enough where you can, if you wanted to. But I'm not telling you to. I'm telling you not to. I have my celebratory beer. I'm gonna clean up my mess and call it a day. So next time I think I'm gonna build some either cornhole boards. I built them before, but I'm gonna build another set for a friend of mine. We can do another step-by-step of how to get them just right angles, and the exact sizes and everything like that, and how to put them together real quick. I think they might be stain grade. I did a painted grade already, so it should be nice. And also, my backyard has a kind of a little hill to it, so when I put my cornhole boards down, I have to shim them up to get them just right, or they won't sit flat. So what I was thinking about doing is building two, I would say, I don't know the sizes, but little decks that you can stand on each side of the cornhole board and throw from, and the deck will be level, and it'll just let the earth run down the way that it does, but you should be able to stand on each side, have the cornhole board there in the middle, have a marker or something where it's the exact distance you're supposed to be from cornhole board to cornhole board, which I think is 27 feet. So those are going to be my next projects that I'm going to throw up on video when we do that. So I don't know which one y'all want to see first, but I guess let me know. And whoever says the most is the one I'm going to do first. And that's all I got to say. Y'all have a great night.